Welcome to Self. My name is Courtney Brame. I'm the host. Uh, I want to have very real conversations. I hear words like problematic and like a lot of avoidance tendencies in the spaces occupy, like at my jobs. Notice I said jobs because I do a lot of stuff. In the settings I'm in, the environments that I'm in, I see that there is almost like an inverse of what it means to be a good human. Um, Not from the perspective of like calling out injustices, but even calling out injustices has become an injustice, so to speak. So I'm micro navigating my way into what I believe is going to be a much larger conversation as I feel called to do this. Like, I feel called to talk about and present solutions from people about subjects that very much affect people, but we hear people speaking for those who might have their voices muted, but we don't really give these people the opportunity to speak up for themselves because oftentimes what we might think a person needs to support them through a situation or to have supported them earlier in that situation might not even be it, you know? And this is coming from myself who has been running a community space for people who have been navigating herpes stigma. And what I've learned over the last 6 years is that herpes is representative of something that is much more deep, typically some form of a trauma. And herpes outbreaks and stigma serve as triggers that link to that trauma. And when we take the opportunity to explore what that looks like, and I mean, that's kind of where self stemmed from. It was like, I began to have much more meaningful conversations out loud to myself on this platform, uh, more so than talking about herpes because I felt like there came a point where this became so much bigger than herpes, but people come to the herpes podcast for herpes content. So there needed to be a place for me to express myself, for me to have this self exploration, this self education. And that's really where the name kind of came from. So I didn't expect for it to become something where I'd be having what I like to call cancelable conversations. But this is where we are. So I hope that that made enough sense to let this be something that people are willing to listen to with open ears and hear two people um, have a discussion about their lived experiences, not for the sake of calling out things, but just for the sake of like getting back to the intimacy and the solutions of genuine conversation between two people. So I hope that this resonates as you listen and stick around. I hope that, when you have a moment where you're like, why do you ask that? Or why'd she say that? Whatever, like, just sit with it because oftentimes when we think we might be triggered, what's happening is that we're being challenged, and in the right safe space we're able to work through that. And we need people to do that with each other and for us, and to hold us in that regard of being able to not only be accountable but to just be, a good person and to be able to be real, because when we repress that stuff, I think that it explodes out in very unintentional way that causes significant harm. All right. All of that said, I have a guest here. I didn't even ask you if you wanted to use your name. I have no reason to say your name. Okay. All right. I got the head now. So we're on video, but y'all are going to be on audio. Um, Erica, you are a lot of things that I'm going to let you say, and you set the tone for what your identity is. Because I would say, I would probably say things that you wouldn't say. So I'm going to let you do that, and I'll add to it as necessary.
Um, I occupy a lot of roles in my life. I'm a mother. I'm I'm a mother with no co-parent. I am a full-time employee. I am the eldest daughter out of five. Um, like those are my basic day-to-day things. I'm a lot of things. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a caregiver. Um, I don't know. That question is always really hard to answer because we can always answer the obvious things, and because other people see the other things that we typically, overlook.
Well, here's what I've seen so far from you. In our time of knowing each other, I've seen someone who is very supportive. I've seen someone who is celebrating, and I see someone who is willing to also challenge. And these are three things that are very important to me with anybody who's in my life. Like, I want people around me who are able to support, celebrate, and challenge me. And you and I have had real conversations about different types of things, and one of those things has been like lately these conversations around men and women, masculinity, femininity, and when I talk to you and I look at you, like I think that I witness like an embodiment of femininity and expressed in various ways, just with like how you communicate, I would say. And when I ask people like what does it mean to be masculine, or when I hear people talk about what it means to be masculine or what it means to be feminine, usually their responses are in contrast to the other. What is masculinity? Oh, it's not femininity. What is femininity? Oh, it's not masculinity. What does it mean to be a man? To not be a woman. What does it mean to be a woman? Not to be a man. And there's not really much more detail to that. And when we talk about masculinity, femininity, there is absolutely like a genuine essence and energy to, or connectedness even to like this essence of divinity, period. Like when I say divinity, I just mean like at our core. I don't mean divine as in way out there. I mean like at the deepest root of our existence, and that essence that is all of one, where if we talk about masculinity, femininity, it would have come from that same essence, that same source. It's an essence of that source, right? So I very much feel that one of the things that you've done for me is significantly validate my identity as someone who is curious and curious about these kinds of topics and like challenging things to talk about. Like on my social media feed, I'll post things that don't necessarily have to do with what my page is about, but just like this counter pop culture type thing. And I see things like self care is this, or people calling people narcissists without any diagnosis or details. Speaking about what most recently brought this up was this misogyny and misandry. And so that's kind of what got us to sit down and have this particular conversation, because I think one of the things that I said was how I read it was that misogyny is hate for women, like men hating women. Misandry is women hating men. And as I explored that more, what I learned was that, as a man, what I've seen hate expressed as is more so apathy or avoidance. Like, I avoid what I hate. If you're someone who's wronged me in the past, I'm going to avoid you. And that is what I've seen from the men around me who hate a thing. Like, oh man, I hate that. I don't even go there. I don't even do that. Whereas with more women, what I've seen is the hatred for men expressed is closeness. It's like getting more engaged with the thing that they hate. Or even if women hate a thing, like I'll see women who are friends on the surface, but be like behind that person's back, oh, I hate that B. I can't stand that B. And it got me thinking, I was like, yo, that's wild, because as a man, I avoid what I hate, but as women, they engage with what they hate. And like I've gone on a date with a woman who has expressed like her hate for men, and I was just like, wow, if I'm fascinated. If you don't like men so much, like why are you going on dates? And me being a man, I was like, all right, well, we're gonna be on this date. I know it's not going anywhere, but this was really entertaining, and like I still paid. And I thought about it, I was like, oh, she will drink your drinks, probably have sex with you, maybe even end up in a relationship with you, probably even get married, but then like just because of that hate, use you, manipulate, or corrupt, and try and change. And I don't know what that's about, but um yeah, these were just like the thoughts. And this is such a long like opening to this because I guess it's been building up inside of me to like really want to engage with real people about this kind of stuff because social media is not a safe place to do it. Like why is it that social media is a place where you cannot engage about real things? You know, it's social media. It's more like compliance media now. I don't know. I don't know. But we can't really go forward without any sort of conflict or disagreement and being able to willingly sit down with one another and like learn from each other from real experiences. I don't want people to filter themselves and say, well, I know not all men or I know this, da da da. But yeah, I want to invite this conversation. So, wrapping that up, I want to give you the space to share. We ended up getting on the topic of abuse. Now, I think, or wait, your eyes got big. Was that not it, or did I freeze? I must have frozen. I am going to pause this real quick because we are frozen. All right, we had a little setback right there. All right, hopefully I'll be able to just roll with it. But yeah, we ended up getting on the topic of abuse and like how I don't know that men who hate women abuse women. That would be more of a women thing to do. And I wonder if there's like a wow, I'm saying this out loud for the first time, but I'm wondering if it's like as a result of single women who are angry at past a child's father, let's say son's father, raised son with these traits, and then the abuse goes expresses itself not because that boy grows up to hate his mom and can't avoid her, so he has to engage with her. Like, wow, could that be a thing? I don't know. What were you about to say? I feel like I just had like a mind blowing moment.
It's you say things like that, and I always tell you the same thing, Courtney. I don't know what you're talking about because I don't. I'm a woman, and I don't do the things that you are physically seeing other people. You're watching women end up in these relationships with what you're saying, having this very broad vocabulary on how much they dislike men, and I've seen that for sure in friendships. Women that will say, I'm friends with such and such, and wherever and it turns into something else. It turns out that they're like keeping all these things, whatever. With men and mothers and the dad, like I grew up in a home where that was touchy, and my moms might not have been like dogging my dad out, but they definitely talked about the things that went wrong in those relationships, and it definitely impacts, right, how those children grow up. We are definitely that is molding how we view the world and we view people. And we're watching our mama getting done dirty, quote unquote, done dirty by somebody who was supposed to be. And the reality is, when those things happen, nobody's talking to the kids about what's happening. Not in a productive way. The parents are all, the adults are in that world. We're having that moment. We're going through this breakup or whatever is happening. And the kids are just there for the ride. Right? So that's why for me that's important. How I bring that image of the reality is that my abuser, not just the father of my children, but my ex-abuser. He's not just my ex; he's also my abuser. And even then, I am very careful on how I communicate that in a way that my children can receive it, depending on the appropriate stage that they're in, so that they can process little by little. Because I don't want to create that. I don't want to create that thing where now the child is creating this weird toxic connection with their mom based on all of that other stuff that they saw around them.
Yeah. Um, and again, I just said that out loud for the first time. Like, it's just like dots connecting based on what I've seen, what I've heard, what's been shared with me, and learning to navigate this stuff. Because, like, for myself, I was my mom's firstborn, and I've spoken about this on a podcast. Like, I feel like I was my mom's emotional boyfriend growing up, and so I got to see how she interacted with men, and I had more of the whole picture and know my mom. So I know like her influences on what was going on. I know what she was saying, I know what she was doing. I know too much. And seeing the way that men would interact with my mom versus how my mom interacted with me, I think like made for a little bit of confusion because to me, what I think was shown to me was like some form of like manipulation. I think this is like called game or having game at this point. Like to be emotionally unavailable to keep a woman is like that's what you gotta do. Like you gotta be emotionally unavailable. And that worked for her because she also had the emotional availability of her son. Like I had to be there. I couldn't leave, right? So she wanted emotional availability from a significant other. It didn't matter if she didn't get it because she had her son who couldn't go anywhere. And I think about it like this, like I don't know that like we when we talk about abuse, I wouldn't say my mom abused me. But if I were to objectively say what like that I was my mom's emotional boyfriend, she's like, oh my God, that's emotional abuse. And the sensitivity around that also kind of translates into sexual assault, right? And excuse me, I had to burp. I was drinking this Waterloo water, this bubbly water. I've been on that since I moved to Portland. I gotta get my last little 2 days of Portland life in before I move back home. But anyway, people would like label that emotional abuse, and there's a lot of collective sensitivity around things that I think devalues the experiences of people who have actually gone through and experienced what abuse is, right? So people in relationships because a person, just ghosted them, like, and you don't even know what reason that they had for ghosting, this person's an abuser. Okay, well, that person probably didn't, but could have died. Does that make them abusive? Something tragic could have happened around them. Does that make them an abuser? No. Like, this might be something that falls under the category of emotional abuse because of the lowered bar for sensitivity that we have nowadays with interacting with human beings. I love all your facial expressions, and I'm kind of like, I know I'm on mute. I know that you've muted yourself so that we don't have like the echoing and overlap and everything, but we on the same wavelength. I'm very much appreciating the nonverbals. Um, but yeah, I'm speaking specifically about this to set it up for you to be able to talk about your experience with abuse because, like I said, like someone could say that my mom abused me because I was her emotional support throughout probably most of my adulthood too, until learning how to set boundaries. Like, hey, mom, we ain't talking about that. We ain't doing that. Here's what you can do. I give you this advice. Like, that's it, right? But from your experience, like if there were a line for people getting accountability held for their abuser, like your experience based on what you shared, you'd be like at the back to someone who, was juggling multiple relationships and the person that she liked just didn't text her back and now she's like, you abused me. Like you would have to be behind that person when you have like a real lived experience. So I'll just like open up the floor for you to be able to speak your as much of what you would like to share, and then I'll just jump in points where you let me.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So let's just jump right into it. And I will say that I I have experienced other forms of abuse prior to my relational abuse with my ex husband, but I was at the end of the line for a lot of things, and it was pretty crazy. My ex wasn't necessarily, he never hit me, so because of different societal norms, cultural things, and the experiences that I had by the time I got to that point in my life, there was a lot. I was young and he was young, and I am the person who I'm not quick to judge somebody for a poor behavior, right? Like an unacceptable behavior right off the bat, right? Like I've always been the person that like I'm willing to hear your story and I can hear you out. I can see how you got to places. And It was just very subtle at first, and by the time I was 10 years into it, I was in a place where I was just scared to just exist. You know, there was a lot of, when I say emotional abuse, I'm not talking about something like you were your mom's partner in life at that time. It might not have been right for her to lean on you emotionally, right? But I wouldn't classify that as abuse. As a mother of kids, you know, it's not healthy, but it's not abuse either. It's just probably something that your mom was struggling with and didn't have anybody else to help her out. She did the best she could with what she had at that time, right? Um, Emotional abuse in my situation was, I'm just going to be very blunt about everything.
See,
Sorry to
we
everybody
shouldn't have to do
who's.
that.
No, I'm just saying it because I'm just preparing people because I'm going to start talking about things in detail because I'm not. I can tell my story without freaking out, and I know that sometimes it's important for people who are listening to this to hear some of those details because it helps perspective.
That
So
is
like
so much better than saying trigger warning. Thank you.
there's no, you're going to be triggered if you haven't dealt with your wounds listening to this conversation. So I'm just going to take some extra time here real quick to like send a lot of love to people who are listening to me about to share what I'm going to share, and understand that if you are in this situation today, right now, that I'm not judging you, you're not at fault, and it's going to be okay.
You know
Right?
you're my only listener, right?
I know. Listen, like if one other person listens, you listening to me say that means that you will have conversations with other people, and you will all of a sudden remember this moment here. That's the point of hearing things being said out loud. Your mind has to create that memory. Um, so when I say emotional abuse, I was in a relationship with somebody who, if I didn't let him fuck me the way he wanted to fuck me, he would still fuck me however he wanted to fuck me, and then leave me there crying, and then not talk to me for 2 weeks because I didn't give it to him like he wanted me to give it to him. So that is emotional abuse.
That's not
I am
sexual
now.
abuse?
It was definitely sexual abuse. The in between time where I'm now searching for you to forgive me for not giving it to you, right? Like, I had to spend those 2 weeks begging for attention. I had to spend those 2 weeks begging for him to let me back in. I had to spend those 2 weeks being ignored in my own house in front of my kids, uh, but still trying to come at me when it's time to go to bed at night, right? And I was in a place where I was feeling very just low, obviously, right? I'm accepting these things because I believe that I deserve them. And I was just, that's where I was. That was my reality. Um, if the most minimum thing got done off course, like it was just one of those situations. My husband wasn't beating me across the face, but there was a lot of ups and downs. And I was the sole provider for our home. We had 5 kids. I was the sole provider for our home for about 8 years total. I have a bachelor's degree that I acquired. I'm a full-time mother of 5 children. I homeschooled my oldest. Like, I handled all of the housework. I was taking all that on because I was in a place where I felt like I was letting my relationship down, and I needed my husband to have the space he needed to grow. So I was like, I'm going to take this seat and just give him the space he's telling me he needs, because he needs all this support. I'm not supporting him. I don't put him at the top. He's telling me all these things. I had to stop talking to my entire family to prove the point that he was more important than everybody else. He brought me in with the admiration of my big family, and that's something he always wanted. And then didn't know how to handle that, right? And was like, oh, that means that they're going to be involved in our life. And when I come at you out of pocket in front of them, they're going to say something to me. Yeah. Okay, so we can't be around these people. And slowly I became more isolated. Slowly I pulled away. Halfway into the relationship, I can say this. I searched outside of my marriage, and I started talking to an old friend, and I got all emotionally wrapped up with somebody else. And that came to fruition basically in my relationship, and it came up and it blew up. And then all of a sudden I did this thing. I cheated on my husband emotionally, and I understand that for men, that's huge, right? I broke this thing, which was really already broken, but now there's this thing we could point at. And that's kind of like how herpes is in life for me, like post my relationship. It's easy to point at herpes because herpes is the easy thing to point at. But you said it. Herpes typically just like reminds you of the other things because it kind of goes away for a little bit and it kind of creeps up sometimes. And then you find somebody you want to fuck again. And then you have to tell them you have herpes. And it's like, oh, yeah, there's that thing that I was avoiding. I forgot about that. You know, my ex gave me herpes and didn't tell me about it for 2 years. He made me believe that I gave it to him. If that's not emotional abuse, I don't know what is. One day in bed in the middle of the night, I guess he was feeling guilty 2 years later, and he told me that he gave it to me. I thought I was going to kill our baby because I was finding out I had herpes while I was finding out I was pregnant. I was having my first outbreak. And he told me that he gave it to me, and he was sorry, and I was like, fuck it, we're 2 years into this. Like, I got herpes, you got herpes, we'll share antivirals, and we'll have a great day. I didn't even give him shit for it. I didn't give him because it's done, it's done. Like, I got herpes, thanks. We still got like all this other things that we have to deal with. For 2 years, I had to carry that. And I felt like crap because I was like fucking around whoever before I got married. I was doing my thing. And I brought herpes to my husband. Damn, Erika, like, fuck.
And when that happened, did you feel like you owed him? Like, oh, I need to just be loyal because I did this to him.
You know why I didn't? Because I thought that I gave it to him and he knew he gave it to me, Courtney. He was super understanding of me giving him herpes. It's okay. I love you. I forgive you. It's fine. So here I am thinking I have this open man who is accepting me for who I am, even though I brought herpes to his life, right? And he's telling me it's okay. He's not mad at me for it. Of course he's not fucking mad at me for it. He knew the whole time he gave it to me. I found out later that he gave it to other people prior to me who were calling his family looking for him. I didn't know this until 10 years into my relationship with him. Like after, of course, like all these other million things have come up. Like my husband gaslit the shit out of me. Like he would praise me in public and like fucking dog me out at home. You know, he would constantly withhold affection from me and my children as punishment for however the fuck he was feeling. You know, my children received a lot of physical abuse at his hands. And, you know, the reality is that I'm going to say this because I've processed it in therapy long enough now, but my first child was the only child that was conceived, you know, because we all wanted to be there. Like I had no control of like what kind of birth control I was on. If I tried to avoid getting pregnant, I would get guilt tripped into like, oh, you don't love me? Beso, thank you. I needed that. Yeah. Like he would guilt trip me and like he would make me feel bad. Like, oh, all of a sudden you can't just take a chance with me and have another baby. No, motherfucker, we have 3. I've had 2 miscarriages. You still don't have a job. Like we're in an apartment living with your mom. No, I don't want to take another chance with you. I need a break. I'm tired. What do you mean? And he would make me feel bad. And like withholding emotion, ignoring me, you know, kind of like, you know.
Out of curiosity, so what I've come to sort of learn in my experience is that one of the most attractive things about a man to a woman is him like knowing what he wants, being decisive or being who he is. Like you know that he is consistently going to be who he is and his consistency. I ask this because I want to know if that reigns true in your situation. Like, was it that he knew who he was? Like, what was it that attracted you to this person?
So, we were really young. I'll say that first. I had, you know, I was in a new city. I wasn't also planning on being with somebody long term. I was enlisted in the military when I met my ex. So where I was supposed to be like a pit stop town until I left. basically in the military. When I met him, I'll say this, Courtney, like, I take you for who you are. Like, my husband had no car. He had a job. He was on probation. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he was, you know what I'm saying? Like, he was on probation. Like, and you know what? It wasn't even that. Like, it was good, but all of the things that encompassed him, like, I remember sitting in my car one day, like, when we were still getting to know each other, and I was like, wow, you're so amazing. Like, we were just talking, you know, we were talking about life, and we had very little life experience. We were 19 and 20 years old, you know, but he was talking about his hopes and dreams, right? Everything he wanted to do. And I just like ran with it. I was like, oh, he sounds very confident. Let's go with that. And I don't know what to tell you. This was one of those moments where we used a condom, but it didn't really work out, and we just kind of went for it. And I was feeling like really safe and secure with him. And I used to go with my intuition with that. Like, if I felt it in my gut that I was good, then I was good. And he created that environment for me. I will say that he firmly believes that he is who he presents himself to be. Like, I don't think that he's not who I fell in love with. I think that I see that there's a lot more that needs to be done there, and I'm not a therapist, right? Like, I've had to just learn that the hard way. I can't fix him. And when I would try to verbalize, he wasn't decisive. I saw hope in him. I could see the dream that he had, and I'm like, you can do that. He was talented, right? My husband is ex-husband is super talented. He is into music. He's super intelligent. We had similar tastes. You know, we shared a lot of similar interests. Either we shared a lot of similar interests or he was pretending that we did. I don't know if he was lying then or he's lying now, but either way, he was lying. Like, and you can only hold up that front for so long, right? And then we had a baby, like, quick. Like, I got pregnant and I was like, fuck it, I'm having this baby. I'm not going in the military. And he was a fucking awesome dad. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay. But then things started to go astray, like, bad. Like, I would come home and the kitchen was clean, everything was done, everything was perfect. And then all of a sudden, I feel like he got tired. Things weren't going good. He lost his job and he was starting to have to confront life. And I was seeing that he was seeing that I was seeing that I wasn't prepared for this. I know. And I also know, obviously, I know his life story and I know how he got to where he is. So I can't fault you for that. So I'm looking at him and I'm like, we can grow through this. We're young, right? We have time to grow up. It's going to be fine. He seems like he's receptive to us growing together. So we can do this. Because I'm the type of person to get help. I'll go get a therapist with a quickness. Where's the first fucking free therapy so I can sign up? Like, my therapist is about to go on maternity leave and I'm like, girl, who's your replacement? Like, I understood from a very young age that if I have that resource, I should take advantage of it. I tried to go through church. We were in some fucking wild ass church and there were elders and all this other bullshit. And I was, was submissive wife and I'm following that fucking track. I went to elders and I got, we ended up leaving the church. My husband was like so outraged for me, like asking somebody outside of our house for help. It was that kind of situation. We're fucking up. You're beating our baby. Like, you're falling apart. You're fucking raping me on a regular basis. And you don't think we need help? Courtney, there were men around us to hold him accountable, but nobody knew what was happening. And then when I spoke up, I got shut down.
You got shut down?
From all angles.
Okay, I was about to ask, who shut you down?
Like, there was no way for me to, markers, nope, we're just going to take a quick, nope, pause, nope. I love you, but no, we're not doing that. Here,
he got markers. All right.
Yeah, pause. Okay. I tried to get help in ways that he wouldn't feel like I wasn't judging my husband, right? Like, I was telling him, I see you. I see you struggling, bro. I'm gonna cry. I was like, I see you struggling. Like, you're having a hard time. Let me fucking help you. You don't want me to help you? There's like, so I'm telling him, just let me help you. And if it's, strange, right? Like if that's like a thing, if you just can't get help from me directly for whatever, right? We had a long line of people that were like more than willing to jump in. Right. But he just wasn't open to that. He for whatever reason. I mean, I know for a lot of reasons, but even at that point where I'm coming home and we're looking at our less than 1 year old baby bruised up because you can't even handle getting through a fucking like meal with a fucking baby. Like, that's how much you're struggling. Like, I see you. And then, as time goes by, alcohol came into the picture, and, we went from 0 to 6. It just escalated really fast.
Yeah. I hear you say that he what did you say? I hear like that you were taking care of everything. You were working full time. He wasn't working. He was in hard times, and it seems like he just wouldn't ask for help. And you mentioned there were men around you. There was nobody to hold him accountable because anytime that you did speak up, you were shut down. And I'm empathizing here and trying to put myself into uh, your ex-husband's situation, and all I can think about is how, I guess, potentially invalidating that role might have been to his identity if he was head of house and he's talking in a way that's like, you going outside of our house to find, what we need to do. And I guess it just seems like this constant invalidation to his identity, maybe not even just as a man or as a masculine person, but also you described him as a musician, as an artist. Like, you said he had ideas. So for him to perhaps not have been validating himself or having his identity validated in those particular things, there was this expression of repressed. Oh, you can't hear me anymore. Oh, okay, okay. There was like this expression of repressed energy that just like spilled out in the most intense way. Go ahead.
I co-signed for loans at music school. I bought studio equipment. Courtney, I'm the most supportive person to have on your back. You need support, call me. Studio equipment, mics, motherfucking a bachelor's degree that I'm still paying for that never got finished. I helped him seal his record so that wouldn't impede him getting a job. Got him off of probation 2 years early. Like, I will do whatever it takes to get my partner to wherever the fuck they want to go. Just tell me. You want to be a fucking producer, bro? I got you. You want to sell food out of a food truck? We bought a truck that we were supposed to turn into a food truck. It never happened. That, I hear you. That does happen often. I know a lot of men who that is their complaint. I have
Just
all
not
these
being
things.
supported.
I have all these things that I want to do, and every time I start talking about it, buddy, I'm trying to tell Courtney. I got you. I'm going to tell him. Don't worry. Every time I try to, I want to do a new project. I don't want to work for somebody anymore. I want to be self-employed, And a lot of partners freak the fuck out, right? Because it's like, what do you mean? You want to like embark on a fucking new journey? Like, what? Me, I'm like, great, let's quit our jobs, pay out our 401ks, and start a food truck. Ask me where that truck is. I have no fucking clue.
Damn.
I'm a supportive partner. I can stand on my feet and say that if I am anything, I'm a supportive partner. That was not no. If he was feeling repressed, he was doing it to himself. It wasn't me. Yeah. And whatever he wanted, just tell me.
You know what this makes me think of? Because you mentioned he gave you herpes. And I'm wondering how much of this had to do with that as well. Like tracing that back, tracing the trauma of a herpes diagnosis back to whatever that would represent for him. Is there something there? Because you also mentioned the sexual assault. I know people who think, oh, I can't have kids, I can't have a family because I have herpes. And here he was, now able to have kids, able to have a family, and you were willing to give him that. And the way that you talked about it obviously wasn't ideal, except for the first child, and the rest of it was emotional and sexual abuse. I I'm connecting some dots there for this to have potentially had more to do with the invalidation of identity when it comes to sexuality, because it was like he, in a very roundabout, manipulative way, had his sexual freedom back.
100%. It wasn't until after we split that he told me how he got herpes. I never asked him because to me it wasn't important, right? I was like, I don't care how you got herpes. Like, I'm that person. Like, I don't care. You have it. Like if it was traumatic and you want to talk to me about it, then that's great. But I'm not gonna judge you for how you got herpes. Um, he was in jail for a while. When he got out of jail, he needed to have an experience, because he had been in jail for a while, and he walked away with herpes. And then I don't know what happened to him at his diagnosis or between him getting diagnosed and how much longer I came into the picture. But what I did learn was that he did give herpes to other people, right? And I did find out later that he knew it when he knew he had it when he gave it to me. But I can put myself in his shoes and imagine the trauma of everything that led to him being in prison, which was fucking insane. And then him having to be in jail, then having to get out of jail, then having his first sexual encounter and walking away with herpes. Like, see, I can see him through that.
What I'm learning is that some people, when you see them, that's more frightening to them than anything else. Like to actually be seen.
It is. It is. And I will say that I see people in a very, intense way. And I know that I have that. Like, people are around me and I feel that. It's part of who I am. I'm a projector. That's part of who I am. I see people. I see people strongly and I can't help it. That's just how I am. It's part of my energy. It's part of my aura. And I know that he felt like I have to give her herpes because she's not going to stay with me and give me all these things. I know that.
That's deep. Yo, that's
What do
deep.
I have to offer her? I'm on probation. I don't have a car. I'm living with my sister. I have, you know what I'm saying? And I wasn't judging him for that. When I met him, he was taking the bus, I was down. I was like, you're taking the bus? Motherfucker, tell me where you live. I'll give you a ride. That's crazy. Where you at? I'll pick you up. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
I was so ready to, you want to ride? Come ride. I'm that person. If you want to be on a ride with me, come ride with me. It's safe here. You're going to be okay here, I promise. But I know that subconsciously, I know he didn't do that on purpose. I really know that he wasn't I found this chick, she's really cool, I'm going to give her herpes and lock her down, and then I'm going to abuse her for 10 years. That wasn't his plan. But I feel that. I feel like subconsciously he did that.
Yeah.
Because he knew he had herpes, and he didn't protect me from that. He didn't care for me enough to protect me from giving me herpes.
And this has been going on since y'all met. You've had 5 children, all by him, right?
Yeah.
And what's been the process of delivery, I guess? Have you had vaginal births? Have you given herpes to any of your kids?
I'm going to give everybody hope and say that my births have been awesome. I can tell you with a certainty of 50-50% chance that my kids probably have herpes and probably don't. I definitely have had thoughts about it. Asa, but asthma. Yeah, you're fine. Exactly. But I had great births. I had all vaginal births. My first birth was in a hospital. All of my other births were at home. My husband actually helped me through 2 of those births with no midwives. And, weirdly enough, we had great experiences around that. Herpes has not complicated that part of my life, except that I do take antivirals at week 36 to make sure that I don't have any outbreaks at the time of birth, because we don't want any outbreaks in the canal, because you will pass it to your baby. And then if you have an outbreak, if you guys don't know, anybody listening, if you have an outbreak, you do have to have a C-section if you go into labor, to prevent a host of complications that come from that. But I had no complications because of herpes. If anything, like, my first pregnancy was super scary because I Googled it and I thought I was going to kill my baby. I came to my first appointment. I thought I wasn't going to be able to breastfeed my babies. Like, I was really scared.
Yeah.
And I have breastfed all of my babies extensively. My children are great. Like, they're not, herpes was not a factor.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, herpes made me more aware to be, like, healthier.
Yeah.
During that time.
What's the age range of your children?
All right. This little guy just turned 3 on Saturday. I have a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 14-year-old.
Did you say 3-year-old twice, or do you have 2 3-year-olds?
3, 4, 6, 8, 14.
Oh, all right. And in a time like 2023, where it is so hard to, like, live, you got 5 kids on your own and you doing this. Like, talk to me about that.
Total honesty, it's super scary. I'm not financially stable. I don't get regular child support. Even if I did, it's not a lot. And I do have to depend on my family a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of family, a lot of, and by a lot, I mean 2 or 3 people who come out of pocket every month to make sure that I have a place to live. And yes, I'll tell them. Yes, we work really hard. I know. A lot of food pantries. You got to connect with people, and it fucking sucks. I hate connecting with people. I hate connecting with people out of necessity. That's really hard. But it's led me to really beautiful places, and I don't know how I do it. Short story. On Sunday, I got locked out of my house with my kids and my mom. My garage door wouldn't open. My front door, I have a latch on it, and I leave it on because I'm a victim of abuse, and that makes me feel better. The garage door wouldn't open. I'm locked out of my house with all 5 of my kids and my mom, and it's just not working out. I'm like, Mom, just go play in the backyard. I'll figure it out. Maintenance people can't come open it. They're telling me no. The police can't come help me. Fire department can't come help me. I have to call a locksmith. In the middle of calling the locksmith, my 3-year-old autistic child gets lost, and we have to go look for him. All of a sudden, my front door is open. I just pushed it, and it opened magically. That's how I do it, Courtney. Shit like that happens to me all the time. I don't know how to explain it to people. I literally don't know how to explain stuff like that to people.
Yeah.
I try to follow my feet wherever they lead me and be super, like, in tune with myself. And that's really fucking hard. I have to not be scared to get fired from my job, to put my emotional and mental well-being before my job, before, my kids go first. Like, I have to take a leave of absence from work. I'm going back to work on Thursday. No idea how it's going to go. I honestly, like, whatever they decide to do with me, it'll be fine. It'll be fucking scary, but it'll be fine. But the reality is that I'm at that point where I'm willing to, like, no. I don't know how I do it, but I know that I do tell people all the time when they try me, I'm like, I know you see me, I'm 5'5", I'm just standing here by myself, but I'm not alone. I'm never alone. And the people that come at me, I don't have to spend time hating them or being angry or, like, wishing them ill will. because I'm taken care of no matter what. Like, I'm carried. And my ex-husband, who spent 10 years abusing me, I have never wished him ill will, and I still don't. Because the world deserves to have him at his whole beautiful self. So do my kids, and so does he. I deserve to have a fucking co-parent that's on the same page as me. My kids deserve to have a dad who's a whole entire person, who's healed and full of love. And if he can't give them child support, at the very least, he could give them love. They deserve that, and he deserves that. And we, as the world, deserve to have him be healed and whole so we can experience what he was brought here to give us.
It makes me think when you prioritize the needs of your spirit, the needs of the body take care of themselves. The door story, that's wild. Like, I get you can't explain it, and some things just happen that way. I've had various experiences of just like leading with my own intuition as well, and it working out for me. And I wish that people were willing to go into the depths of healing that have to happen. Like, it's not a necessary it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Like, we have to heal. I think that right now a lot of what healing is go to therapy, pay for a therapist, self-care, buy bath bombs, buy this, pay for that. But so little of it is really actually being able to be with the hurt, the pain, and then be willing to heal with it. And people just don't do that. I think we're very disconnected from higher power and what we would pray to, and just whatever that thing is that grounds and connects us to source or divinity, whatever it is that you want to call it, God, right? I think that we're very disconnected from that and very connected to the algorithm, and people just really don't know how to lead with their intuition, to prioritize the needs of their spirit, and just trust that the body needs are going to be taken care of.
I'll tell him. Thank you. I think that religion, in the way that it is perpetuated in the United States, makes those things very confusing.
Where are you from?
And I'm from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And even back home, Catholicism is like harsh. That's the theme. That's what.
He agrees.
I'll tell him. Catholicism is what colonizers brought to us, right? That's what they brought. They brought Catholicism, Christianity. Right. So we had to assimilate through that. And, yep, we have our own practices, our ancestral practices, but that's like the main overriding thing. Here it's the same thing, right? There's a church on each corner, and now like the mega churches are fucking out of control. Like, let's just be real, guys. It's just fucking crazy. But I will also say that it's not that this is hard or that it's expensive or that time is a resource that we don't have. A lot of people don't have. I don't have time. I took a leave from work knowing damn well that I could lose my job. This is my second leave in 2 years. I encourage everyone who has an employer to look at your plans, and if you have leave of absence, go take one. Just go take it. Your doctor, find a doctor that will say that you need a break. It's hard to take breaks if your life depends on this money that you have to pay. I'm on a paid break. Like, I'm not sacrificing shit except like what I'm sacrificing when I am working. I can't take a 6-week non-paid leave from work. Who keeps all of this going if I do that? Nobody keeps that going. Not even the government, because I don't qualify for benefits. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
A single mom of 5 that makes less than $60,000 a year doesn't qualify for benefits in the state of Ohio.
And
so,
what's the reason?
Income. I make too much money.
All right. So I moved to Portland, and I think over the last few years, Well, pandemic aside, I think before that, like I started working for myself, I made $3,000. My mama laughed her ass off at me when I told her that. I was like, yeah, I made $3,042 when I was a personal trainer. Starting out, that's how much I made in 20. It was 2017. I quit my job and I moved back home and I started working with my friend. I made $3,000 that year. 2018, I made a little bit more than that, and then 2019, I was like, I don't know what I'm about to do. 2020 hit. I don't know how, but miraculously, I started getting that $600 a week, and I that changed my life. And I go ahead. What were you? Go ahead.
That's important. Those $600 a week made a difference to so many people. So many people were able to live a standard quality of life because of those fucking $600. It doesn't take that much to just help people out. No. $600 a week is, I think, almost barely, like I'm just barely making more than that now. With a bachelor's degree, all these years of experience in my fields and like all of this shit, like that shit doesn't matter in 2023. They'll hire some asshole that's half my age with no experience and pay him double than when they're paying me and then fire me on the way out. Yeah. Like, it's nuts. And that is important, though. I remember you talking about that when I started listening to you, about how much that made a difference for you. Yeah. All of a sudden, you can sustain yourself. You don't have to worry about what you're... Do you know how important it is to eat? Listen, we can have some clear thoughts when we're fasting, but after a while, like, we need to eat. Yeah. Like, even Spirit is like, yo, that water is looking kind of like, what's up? Is there a little sprinkle for the water? Like, and I feel that, like, man, it's hard. It's hard. Like, I'm at the point where I'm willing to give up my livelihood for my mental health. I'm willing to grab all of my fucking kids and put myself in a one-bedroom apartment, if that's what it takes, for our mental and spiritual well-being to be intact. I refuse to add more scars to my children's, like, fucking whatever. I'm in repair mode. And I will make the best out of fucking nothing if I have to. Like, but I'm not going to continue giving more of myself with no reciprocity. Like, I did that for 10 years with somebody already. I told my mama, I'm like, Mama, what you did with 3 baby daddies, I did with 1. Like, I didn't need 3 husbands. I did it all with 1 guy. So, now that we've learned all those lessons, we're just going to move this way now. And I don't even let my parents fuck with my peace. Like, they can't understand, how I moved. Our parents have all these views of how we're supposed to be based on what they were taught. And that shit just is outdated, unfortunately. A lot of that stuff is foundational, but you really have to, like, push through there to apply it and tweak it and add to it, right? I'm taking all the good stuff that you're giving me, and now I'm going to add some more good stuff to it, because 2023 is not 1967.
It's not.
$2 is just not $2 anymore. No. Like, tell me a story about how my granddaddy got 10 cents to go get a haircut. I'm like, Mama, times are different now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's $40. $40.
Times are different, and I would rather be broke and homeless with my kids than be giving my spirit the way that I was giving it away. I'm fucking, like, I have bags under my eyes, and I just noticed for the first time. Like, on top of all this shit, like, it's hard. And living post-abuse, living post that relationship that I still have to carry daily because my kids have to talk to their dad and they have to have a relationship with him, and all this other bullshit that the court says I'm supposed to do with somebody who was abusing my kids. Like, I'm here. And I don't make it difficult. But I do hold my boundaries. And that's a non-negotiable. Because that little guy right there, that's like talking about, no, try me. I'm a different person today than I was years ago. I've grown, I had to grow through that, and it was fucking hard. And I will say this, I did not want to divorce my husband. I thought that if we spent like 3 to 5 years living separate, but like in the same, separate but together, I believed we could do it. I was like, 3 to 5 years, babe, it'll be fine. It'll be fucking hard. But imagine what we could do if we took the time to just like pump the brakes a little bit, pour into ourselves what we've obviously not been pouring. Like, I think we got this. But we have to be willing to get help. Like, I jumped straight into therapy as soon as I left my husband.
All right. Let's real quick. Let's touch on something real quick. Because
do it.
There's a line between being naive and then being faithful or hopeful. I'm sorry, having faith, being hopeful. You gave me some really good advice, and your advice was because I was complaining about dating. And I remember I was like, man, yeah, when I do this, I get a lot of high quantity responses. It was just me, like, not really talking too much, being emotionally unavailable, like, just being your traditional man, like, not really talking about feelings, just using leading language, not asking questions, not asking. And that was really working for me in dating. Like, I was having sex, but I wasn't having intimacy. And when I was doing it, I was like, yo, there's an inconsistency here. And the inconsistency is that I want relationships. I don't want to just fuck. Like, I want to be in a relationship. Like, it's not like a time thing. It's just that I see more value in intimacy than I do in just fucking now. Now, to have intimacy and be in a relationship and to be fucking, like, that's different. That hits different. The idea of it at least hits different because I don't have that. But the reason that I say that is because I learned that I'm much better in relationships than I am in dating. Like, I'm good at relationships, bad at dating. And I don't want to get better at dating. I want to get better at being in relationships. The only way to do that is to practice doing that and being in a relationship. Like, I don't want to get better at dating because that's going to take away the relationship component, right? So when I was talking to you about this, what you said to me was, it was like, well, you can unsubscribe from that game. I think those were the exact words that you used. And I was like, oh. So all that meant was, for me, just continuing to lead with intentionality, but like not like having to cut myself off from being who I am. Because the thing about that is, while that may be intimidating to somebody, or that may be something that somebody isn't ready for, all it's really doing is clearing the space for somebody who is ready for it, right? So I give that context because you're the person who gave me that advice, yet you were hell bent on making this relationship work. Is that because, in your case, you're a relationship person, but you're a relationship person with this person? Were you thinking that you can get better in the relationship with this person by being in the relationship with this person and staying married to him?
I have learned, I have been described over the last couple of years like as a hopeful person, and I didn't think I was. What happens with me is that I believe that everybody has the capability to live up to their full potential if they're given the opportunity, if they're given the right environment, if they're given the right tools. Yeah, exactly. I believe in that. I believe that if in a perfect world, everybody would be able to live to their full potential, and we would live in like a beautiful place. And when I looked at my husband, I saw that. That's a gift that I have. I can look at you and I can see you past this moment, way out there. And I see you here and I can see you there. And I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. But I can see that. I can't fucking see it for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and when I was seeing my husband in those moments, he was very receptive to that idea. It only lasted 3 weeks. It took him 3 whole weeks of being like, I can't pretend anymore. And like the fucking psychotic behavior started, right? The stalk, because now we're separated. Now I had left the home, and then I had to leave without anybody knowing I was leaving. It got to that. So I ran away from my home in the middle of the night with my kids. It was that situation. It was escalating, and that's where we were going. So I was like, no, you're not going to kill me. You're not going to be drunk and being crazy. No, we're not doing that. I've seen enough Lifetime movies. Like, I know where this is going. I don't have to pretend like I don't know where it's going. You know what I'm saying? Like, I couldn't. I now had the man that was supposed to be my safe place threatening me with a fucking knife in my house. So I had to make a choice. And even after I made that choice, I could still see him. It only took 3 weeks. It all fell apart. I mean, it was the longest fucking divorce ever. It took us 2 whole years to get through it. So many DCF, Child Protective Services, psychological evaluations. Like, the trauma that the split was, I don't know if it outweighs the trauma that it was in the relationship. All that to say, I was naive because I loved him. But I did believe in that naivete thought. I still do believe that that could have been possible. My rational mind is there, and my intuition, I can now listen to it. I can now connect my rational mind to my intuition. I no longer feel like those two things are separated. So those two things can be real. I can have all this love for him, and I can also rationally see that he's not good for me and decide not to be in that relationship anymore. I tell my kids all the time, you know what? Don't ever let a fucking marriage certificate or you telling somebody you want to be their girlfriend or their boyfriend today stop you from saying, I changed my mind. I don't want to be your boyfriend or girlfriend anymore. Sorry. This is a discovery process. I now have new information, and I have made a new choice, and I changed my mind. You can literally change your mind whenever the fuck you want. Who told us we had to stay in these crazy psychotic relationships with people? I was lost driving the other day, and I refused to pull over. And I was like, Erika, you're 35. Just fucking pull over. For the first time in my life, I had to pull over. I gave myself permission to fucking pull over. You can give yourself permission to break up with somebody who doesn't work with you. Something crazy doesn't have to happen for you to say, this isn't working. We don't need to wait until it gets to a knife in your face. I knew it the very first time I came home and I found bruises on my kid. But I was not in a place in my head, and I didn't have the right people around me to give me the support that I needed and that we needed to see that this isn't going to work, and it's okay. Y'all don't have to be together because y'all have a fucking kid together. Y'all can just decide not to be together and figure it the fuck out. I didn't have to marry him and stay with him for all those years, but I was fucked up. I was fucked up from trauma. I experienced a lot of fucked up things when I was a kid, and I didn't get the right support I needed to heal from them. Nobody taught me how to be in healthy relationships. Oh, you're finally coming to say hi. Oh, shit.
Oh, hey. Hi.
Nobody ever taught us how to be in healthy relationships. And according to this day, we still don't have a good example in our family of what a good, healthy relationship looks like. My grandparents are the only ones, and they don't count because they hate each other. They're faking it.
So what model for a healthy relationship did you have, I guess, growing up or in adulthood? Who did you learn to be in relationships, or who did you learn how to be in relationships from?
I learned from my moms and my aunts. My mom and my dad split when I was 2. I was really young, and my stepmom came into my life when I was 4, and she helped raise me. And my mom remarried shortly after, and I had a stepdad for like 7 years. Those relationships were okay. I was little, as I got older, I saw the cracks, and then my parents just kept getting divorces, and some of them got remarried multiple times.
We got very interesting reactions to that, because like my parents have never been in the same room except for Like when one was picking me up or dropping me off to the other one, and I thought this was normal. Like all my
No, like
friends.
both of my moms have only been in the same room together over the last 15 years twice. You're so cute. I know. This is my son, Courtney. Here, since nobody else can see him. Go, baby. And my mom's, like, my stepmom was with my dad for 13 years. My dad was a habitual cheater. And that was not known until later on, right? It came up. It came up like that. And he wasn't very emotionally available to us. We had to ask what his mood was before we went to go talk to him. We didn't have to, but we felt like we had to because we knew that we would, like, pay the price out. Like, temperature check, bitch. Like, how's daddy feeling today? Do we have a chance to go to the movies, or do we need to wait until tomorrow to ask? And you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want anybody to think that it was bad. It was bad, but it was bad in the normal ways that it was bad for us in those times. But they were not healthy relationships. Yeah. My moms both accepted a lot of shit from their partners. They were both in abusive relationships at one point or another. And I got to see that.
You know, when you said moms, I always thought that you were just raised by a lesbian couple. I swear, no. I thought that this whole time.
I don't mind people thinking that, but right. I don't correct them either until they ask. All right, so I have my bio mom who obviously birthed me, and my dad remarried when I was really small, and my stepmom helped raise me. Like, her and my dad split when I was 16, but like, I just moved to the state she lives at. Like, that's my mom. That's my mom. Without her, like, I'm grateful that I had them in my life. They balance each other out in ways that they'll never know because they're weird and they don't want to be, you know what I'm saying? Like, they do have that weird vibe where they're just like, we're not friends, it's cool. But yeah, like, my examples were of a lot of women who were not happy in their marriages, who had very shitty husbands, and it was very obvious. Nobody was tiptoeing around that. And as I've gotten older, I've just, you get older, you find out new things about your family, and the stories just get worse and worse. Like, I still learn new things from my mom. Just told me some shit this weekend that I didn't know, when she was in one of her relationships. And I'm like, wow, Mom. She's like, I've literally never told anybody that until just now. And I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, we grew up in a culture that you don't talk about stuff like that. My mom's grew up in a culture where you don't talk about stuff like that. And there's a lot of shame around that. There's a lot of shame around sticking around these relationships where you have a shitty husband, but then there's also shame around getting married and then getting divorced and then getting married again because now you're loose. And it's like, all right, but I'd rather be loose than be getting abused. Like, I don't know. Like, just, it's very pandering because we just want to be, like, respected, right? Like, if you see somebody and you know they're getting fucking abused, you're all just standing there watching it happen. Fucking bystanders. And we're just standing there waiting for somebody to, like, oh, yeah, that is happening over there. The fuck are y'all waiting for? You made that comment and it low-key pissed me off.
Wait, which comment?
When we were talking the other day, you were like, if men knew this was happening, they would handle it. And I'm like, I hear what you're saying, Courtney, but where are those men at?
Oh, all right. So, going
like, my ex, my not my husband, but my last partner that I just had, we broke up for other reasons, but safety was never one of them. And he had to deal with watching me deal with my kid's dad. And that was something very, like, I felt that from him, that protection, that, wait a minute, what's happening? Like, what's going on? And he very much loves my children. Like, he's loved them like their own, always, like his own always, even in a short period of time. So I do know that those men are out there. I've just never seen them when I needed them.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, wait, you said that pissed you off, and then you said, hey, now these men exist.
It pissed me off because I know that they exist, right? Like, you're not making something up out of thin air. Like, we've all met good men in our lives at one point or another. If somebody hasn't, like, I'm sorry, I will say that I have a special love for men in my heart. I am not a man-hating person. That's not something that's in me, and just is what it is. I, but where have those men been for me? Where are they at? My brother-in-law, ex-brother-in-law, whatever the fuck you want to call him now, man of Christ, and he's from Georgia, and he's a great man, and he comes from a farmer family, and he's a Christian, and he's a respectable man, and he has a great job, and he has a great family. Where was he at when all this shit was happening in my house? Co-signing on it. His mom was living in our house with us, co-signing on that shit. Like, there were people around me witnessing what was happening, and nobody once, not once. Where are those men at? Where are they at? Where are they? And why are they not, like, standing up in droves in front of the domestic women's centers to help those women?
You know what? If I had to philosophize here, it would be this, like, the apathy. I don't know if me and you got to talk more about this, but the developed apathy. I had a conversation with my granddad, and my grandfather is he's in the Marines. He was a Marine, and him and his boys saw this woman getting her ass beat in the street by her boyfriend, and they go like whoop this dude ass, and she jumps in and like they stop, and then the couple presses charges on him. So these 6 dudes that checked this man, he learned something in that scenario. He was like, oh, if I have all the control over this woman, now I'm safe to do what I want to do, even among these men who normally, like, men fear being disrespected by other men or violence from other men. These are the consequences that we just know exist, right? We know that. And so through not knowing these dudes, he's like, I ain't got to worry about y'all respect. Fuck y'all. But then the fear of violence is like, oh, y'all might be hitting me right now, but we finna press charges the shit out of y'all asses because I have this woman. And what those 6 men learn is, all right, I need to mind my own fucking business. Like, I just need to do my own thing. I need to, like, not get involved. And I think that that's now happening on a much more massive scale between the consequences of getting involved being much heavier than the reward for getting involved, because it's not like a reward of respect or just protecting women. And like, you got women saying F men and men are trash. Like, what do you think that does to these men who would like step in and step up to things? Like, it beats them down and it makes them more apathetic, and it makes them say, all right, well, I'll just reserve this for the people who matter to me. Like, I'm gonna just protect my family, right? If that even. Oh, wait, you...
See,
Okay, there you
no,
go.
No. If that, I don't disagree with you. I don't. I agree with you. And I understand men's apathy and how it got there. Because you're right. You know, you try to, especially in domestic violence situations, you got to be careful. Because you step in at the wrong time, and sometimes the person who's being abused will turn on you. Abuse gets like that.
Yeah.
Abuse gets like that, and it's scary. And I was there when things got bad with me. My family tried to come get me, and I wouldn't leave.
Right. So I
wouldn't.
From your perspective, I need to know what what could have been done differently. If you won't leave and people are trying to save you from the situation and you won't leave, like, there's nothing else we can do besides inflict harm on the person who's harming you. And then even if you do that, that's going to hurt you in a different way.
The only thing you can do is be there when that person is ready.
You know how hard that is?
Of course I know how hard that is.
Let's talk about this, because I think that this is where we're getting to like a solution, all right?
Yes, that's deep. Because that means that you have to exist in this world where you know this person is being abused and you have to know it's happening. So this is where parents and children and these dynamics get really scary. This is where you see a lot of parents disconnect from their children or vice versa because the parents are seeing the thing that's happening, but the kid is like, no, 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 no. And then we disconnect. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Get out of my face. Just, and sometimes the disconnect, okay, they want space. And sometimes we need to circle back. We just need to circle back. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a man's problem. This is a societal problem, right? Like society created the construct that created the apathy that men have experienced when they try to get in, and then they don't receive the support they need when they're trying to support somebody else.
I have a counter argument for that. Because we say that society created these men, but men created society, and the society, like, having gotten to the point where it's at, would arguably be on men not being what it has historically meant to be a man, to be in your values, to hold true to that. And we look at masculinity, and it's supposed to be like the pillar of the structure, the stability, the safety. Like, the masculinity represents the safety and the femininity represents freedom. So creating a structure of safety for femininity to be able to run free within the protection of that which is masculine, right? So the cycle of abuse, to me, if I had to, because I'm a very self-accountable person. If I do something, like, I take ownership. Like, that's how I've been raised by not just my family, but like being part of a team. We win together, we lose together. What was my role in this? We ask these questions, we watch the film, we study what it takes to get better, and we look at what we were doing wrong. And I don't see that self accountability, nor do I see, like, I think there's a perpetuation of like this self-love shit, the self-love, narcissism, men are trash, like, that further distances us not just from community and each other and being able to hold one another accountable and for that to have meaning behind it, but it's also keeping us from, like, we get so self-absorbed and we see other people who are self-absorbed, and I think that shit has an effect on us. Like, it's pouring into us. I heard somebody say, why do you think they call your social media a feed? Because it's something that you're consuming into your brain. Like, you are feeding that into your body. This is what you're putting out. Like, what you put in is what you put out. So these TV dramas and like the stuff that's on, the porn, the sex, the all that kind of stuff consistently, like, I looked up and I don't see much family stuff on my feed, and family is something that is very much a priority to me right now. And I'm not seeing that shit. So it's like, how am I supposed to produce something out of me that's not being fed into me? I'm like having to go out of my way to look for that kind of thing, like looking for what's real. And I'm doing so through these conversations and trying to spend more time around my friends who have families, or the people around me who are married or in relationships, spending more time with them, right? So I say all of that to say that when it comes down to it, the lack of accountability, the lack of a code, because, like, I think I said this in the last self episode. I think this is going to go on something positive for positive people because we talked about herpes so much. But the code of, like, knowing that as a man, to do anything that's unjust, especially to a woman or to a kid, like, yeah, them your kids, but also, like, you're held accountable by a community. We don't have just access to people who are in our neighborhood, and those are the people whose opinions of us mean anything. It's now a global connections, and like different cultures do things differently. And when those kinds of things like leak into your own area, everyday life, you start to do things in a way that kind of jumble up communication and what's okay, what's not okay. And it's gotten to the point where lines are so crossed and intersecting that it's easy to just be like, oh, well, maybe I just don't understand and it's not worth me trying to understand. But this is where I come from. This is how I am. This is who I am. I don't think that consistency among men who uphold and created this society, like, men weren't given the path of being able to sustain society in a way that did or does continue to, despite like women being like, I don't need no man, I don't need no protection, like, and we still do that shit. Like, regardless of a woman's like, don't open the door for me, I'm fucking open the door for you. Like, if I see that like abuse, I'm at the very least going to make my presence known, but I still got to think about it in the back of my mind. All right, if I go over there and beat the shit out of this dude who beating the shit out of this girl, well, what's stopping her from pulling out the gun and shooting me in the ass? Because everybody got a gun now. I feel like I'm the only person who probably ain't got one. But it's not okay, two of us, me and you. But it just feels like it's so unsafe to be a man, not just in the sense of like not being supported by the person that you might even be protecting, but also from the other men around you who, like, yeah, the apathy thing. Like, the apathy has spilled out from men are trash, men ain't this, but I think it all started with boys being left in the dark by men to transition from being a boy to a man to a husband to a father to a contributor to society. I don't know what the trajectory is, but like that pathway has been broken because now we got boys just aging, and now we've got like grown boys doing boy behavior in adult man bodies, and that manifests itself as, without that leadership, without that guidance, they got to figure it out on their own, and through figuring it out, a lot of people tend to get hurt. So I don't blame society. I blame us. I blame this lack of self accountability. I blame
What?
lack of accountability from other men because we just don't have that anymore. Like, when I was on a team, when I had football team around me, like, we made decisions that were in the greater good of something more. We don't have that no more. Like, ain't nobody on the same page of what we're working towards.
Uh, you said a lot. I'll say that when I say society, that's what I meant, right? The people around us, how we've gotten to this point as people. Um, you did say something I want to touch on, the social media thing and your feed and your all the shit you are seeing versus what you want to see. I just had this conversation today with somebody because I have somebody in my life who has a partner who's having a really hard time seeing himself reflected in his surroundings. And he's struggling with being a co-parent and all this stuff. And social media is really fucking weird. I personally have like curated my Instagram, for example. Instagram is my resource for where I go to like my parenting stuff, my self-help stuff with my anxiety, the people that I follow, that are people that I follow on my spiritual guide, on my spiritual walk. So I've curated my Instagram page to be like my newspaper. I feed it what I want to see. And the things that I don't want to see, I just, even just fucking clicking on things on like social media tells the machine that you were interested in that. So I've had to like learn all those icky ways because my phone is my thing. That's where everything else is. And that's where I connect with other people because pandemic, everything else, right? So my Instagram page no longer fucking stresses me out. It used to. I just went through my fucking list one day, Courtney, seriously, and I unfollowed anything I didn't want to see anymore. If I don't fucking know you, you're not following me either. Like, my page is mine. I literally treat my Instagram page like a living journal. Like, this is where I'm like keeping track of so many things in my life. So,
No, I just looked at how long we've been recording. It's been an hour and a half.
Okay,
That's
so
amazing. No, this is amazing. Like, and I feel like, it may seem as if we didn't really talk about, any particular thing, but I think that this is kind of like revving up the engine for what's to come. Um,
yeah.
and yeah, like who better to do this with than somebody who one has the experience, but also like I think trust my intention with this enough to be challenged or to challenge even me. It's like people don't fucking challenge me on stuff, and it's kind of like, all right, like I'm doing something wrong because no one is saying Courtney dot dot dot. But then I come to realize like I've just been losing followers, and after like supporting people with herpes and whatever support has been given, and I don't know what it is. It can be a combination of things, but it's like, all right, like if I did something, talk to me. But people don't do that. People will just unsubscribe. I'm taking care of my mental health. This is self-care. uh
I've learned that okay, you're not the only person that I've connected with solely online. Like, that's a weird quirk of mine. I don't know what it is, but I connect with people online. If I'm following you, like I found your page because of the herpes, right? I found Courtney Brame I pulled up the herpes stuff, and that's how I found you. And then like I stayed for everything else, like really like you said, come get what you want and then just go. But then like you started to move past the herpes thing, and I was like, oh, this guy has some cool stuff to say. Like I'm interested in hearing his point of view. Yeah, like wow, oh my god. And I know I've told you a million times, if anybody's gonna gas you up, it's gonna be me. Like I fucking love listening to you. Like your point of view blows my mind. I had a lot of guy friends when I was growing up, but I don't have a lot of guy friends now in my adult life. So I don't get to hear those point of views from people outside of my circle. It's interesting. It's valuable. Like, hello, I'm not here alone, and I value what you have to say. Like, I'm like, oh my God, that was fucking awesome. I'll be listening to you and I'm like, oh my God, I gotta take notes. Where's my pen? My fucking brain is exploding. Like, it's very validating. It's weird. I feel good hearing you validating yourself on your podcast. Like, I'll be like, man, he like really had that moment there. Like he really broke that down. Like it makes me happy to, see you like processing all that shit. And it makes me feel good to know that you're out there in the world trying to push that forward.
Thank you.
So seriously, like fuck. There's no best. If anybody's gonna gas you up, it's me. I fucking love, like, listen, if you're doing something right and you're like, I'm like, bro, like, go fucking do it. What do you need me to do? Just tell me. I'm there. I got you. Like, and when it comes to social media, and I've had to adjust my mental health, yeah, but I don't just fucking like, I don't treat my social media like that. It's mine. This is where I go to, like, I can't journal anymore because I don't have time to fucking like, I'm gonna sit here and fucking write for 3 hours. I used to love doing that. I'm a writer by nature. Now I can post this picture and I'll put a few words, and I'm not putting there for anybody. It's for me. That shit will pop up 6 months from now and a year from now. I can't track what I'm doing a year from now, but this motherfucking app does it for me. And it'll remind me, and I'll be like, wow, a year ago, look at that net. I was being petty a couple of years ago when I was splitting from my husband. You know what I'm saying? I was like, just like all kinds of wild shit. And my social media is mine. It is mine. I go there for my parenting stuff. I go there for my spiritual stuff. And I don't just go there. I connect with those people like I connect with you. Like I've built these connections with other people through that fucking platform. I can't deal with Facebook anymore. I cannot. The Facebook is there for my family. I have my family there, and people that my family is huge. It's composed of thousands of people. I cannot possibly keep up with all of you. I can't. It is. My family is gigantic. So I'll post updates for my family. Oh my God, there's Erika. There's Erika. There's the kids, and they feel better about knowing that I'm okay and that I'm happy and that I'm moving forward. But I use it as my resource, and I have curated it for that. So if you want parenting stuff, start looking at those. Stop looking at the other shit. If you have a bunch of people that are on there that, for what? Because then it gets lost, right? And then you're like, damn, I haven't seen something from such and such as, damn, but something is popping up. When's the last time I saw your shit? And all of a sudden, like, I know that for you it was different because social media was for something positive for positive people, H on my chest. So I know you've gone through this thing where you have to split Courtney from that, but not really, because Courtney
I was gonna
is that.
say, yeah, it ain't split. It's just
That's
just
what you
like,
make
you
the
know what?
Venom references a lot, and I get what you're saying when you say
Yeah.
that. Like, you have to, like, you're this thing, but you're this thing too, but you have to be this thing, but you're here too.
Yeah.
So like,
Transcendent
you,
duality.
yeah, curate it for fucking you. You're the only one who's looking at it. Let's be real. It's
Right.
your fucking. I don't have your username and password, Courtney. Like, you know, social media fucking sucks, but in this day and age, I feel like it is keeping us more connected because you're right. I don't want to not touch on this. We are missing the community aspect, the accountability aspect. We've become so isolated from each other that we are not holding each other accountable because it is scary to hold each other accountable. There's not even a safe space to hold people accountable. And then when
you mean
there
the
is,
crucifixion? The crucifixion isn't safe?
Did you see that movie? Did you see what happened to the
Hold
guy?
on, wait. I think I said that wrong. But I mean, just like when people call you to the front or you get tagged in something, they're like,
I got
this
you,
person
dude.
needs to be held accountable. They did this thing that hasn't been proven.
And I think you're right. I think people choose not. I think people do avoid engaging in the hard stuff. You know, that whole thing, like, you can take the horse to the fucking river, but you can't make him drink the water. Like, yeah, I can hold you accountable all day long, but if you're not ready to be held accountable, then, you know, what are we doing? Oh, let's just throw you in jail. Oh, that's going to be fucking great. And we all know how that goes.
And just like a lot of other things have had the bar lowered on them, I think even the word accountability has. You know, what does it even mean to be accountable? People just say, hold so and so accountable. You need to be held accountable, but I'm not going to do the emotional labor. And it's like, what? That you negated the statement. So now this is no longer valid. So hold me accountable for a thing that I did that I have no idea that I did or that it even wronged anybody. And again, it like devalues the experiences of people to where their voices are unheard. And I'm hearing like from a secondary, tertiary voice or source that this thing happened, and it's like, well, all right, can this person talk to me? Like, no, you need to be accountable for what you did, and you need to sit in your emotions, and I'm not gonna do that. And I'm like, what? Like, this shit, that's when people used to tell me this white people shit. Like, I think that that's what I'm seeing now. It's just like some of this social justice performative allyship and activism is like the 2023 version of like eating potato salad with raisins in it. Like, now this is what white people shit is.
And it's horrible, right? Because all of this shit that is the shit that is affecting people, right? There's always something that's distracting, and it's fucking sucks that even this has been turned into a fucking shit show. Even activism has been turned into a thing. It is performative, is like, to put it light, because the damage that it has by performing, you know, what's happening while you're performing, the people that you're supposed to be like performing for to help them, you're performing. That's exactly what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
But where's their help? Where's your help? Where's my help? Where's everybody else's help?
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot.
I know.
It's a lot.
I know I introduced this itself, but this is going on to something positive for you. I very much appreciate this, and I think this will maybe be like a good transition episode for anybody, because I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with something positive after episode 300, and I just don't know. I don't know what I want to do next, and as far as interviews go, like, I'm somewhere between inviting people who reach out to me and like, hey, I have a question. Like, hey, I have a podcast. Want to be a guest on it? We can record the conversation anonymously and give people like a glimpse into what these things look like. And people like, oh, I don't think I'm ready for that. But no one I've interviewed has been ready to be on the podcast unless they were selling something. And like, I try not to even bring them people on anymore. But No, I very much appreciate like just talking and being able to speak through this. And no, this doesn't have like a closed end to this podcast episode. Like we talked about abuse, we talked about what it looks like, we talked about, just the reality of I don't think I got to bring it back full circle talking about the food stamps thing, or because I was starting to get into that. But just speaking about how like government assistance, a lot of people who are on it like depend on it and that's it. But like there are really people out here who just need to be able to utilize it. Like I'm leaving Portland this Friday. Today's Tuesday. I'm leaving Portland in 3 days. And I don't need food stamps anymore. And I'm not going to have my healthcare benefits anymore. But like it served its purpose because I was able to get here. I was able to start working, get a part time job. I was able to get that $250 a month to be able to buy groceries, feed myself, and feed myself like a good quality of food while working toward getting to a point where I can take care of myself. And I'm so grateful for those programs because of that. And yeah, there's people who take advantage, but it sucks that like you as someone who just needs that little bit of extra help don't meet this requirement and therefore can't get it. That's what I wanted to make sure to just like touch on because I hate when I don't get like finished complete thoughts because I hate when people do that to me. But Erica, yeah, we we had a we had a hour 41 minutes. So is there anything you want to leave me with or anything that you haven't said that you want to say?
Um, I think like the most important thing, not the most important thing, but if I had to close with somebody with something, I would just reiterate what I said the first time, right? Abuse looks really different for everybody. It's gonna be okay. If you're still there, reach out for help. It's there. The national, what is it? National hotline for abuse. I actually reached out to them. And if you're not ready, that's okay.
Yeah.
I want everybody to remember as well that we're still in a pandemic and people are locked in their houses with their abusers. That's really fucking scary. So if anybody was wondering what the correlation was and the higher rates of everything, uh, the community failed all those people too. So we need to like remember that the internet is great, but we're all like neighbors to each other. We're all living in a real world outside of our phones in relationships that are not so great. And it's okay to check on each other. And, you know, we can't like be super judgmental either. It is what it is. We all make choices, and sometimes we don't know why we make them, but we make them and we're there. And we just want people to meet us where we are without like making us feel like shit about it. Okay. And that's not just for like victims of abuse. That's just for like people in general.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. All right. And one of the things Erika said was, yeah, you may want to save somebody from their abuser. And the important thing is to just be there when they're ready, as hard as that can be. Like, I see it, I've been there, and it's a risk. The risks may not be worth it, but it's all a matter of what aligns with your values. And I mean, for people who, are identifying as what it is to be a man, part of that is being able to assert that dominance and violence if necessary, and being a dangerous person who is capable of mitigating harm, where you can, use your discernment, of course. Like,
yes,
it's so tricky. It's hard. We can't say exactly what is going to happen, but I mean, it's going to require the men who are there to be men to the men around them and build community so that boys can be put on the trajectory of going from being a boy to a man to a partner to being a father, and also being able to be a contributor into society. And I think that is something that's necessary for us to get to a place where society can be a safer place, where there's also, with the correlation of more safety, the more freedom we have. because I think that that's really what it is. The more safety we have, the more freedom we have, and people think, maybe the more freedom we have, the more safety we need, and that's not how it's gonna work. So it really does start with us. It starts with us being disciplined, consistent, and trusted. There's definitely a major wound in the trust in the men or masculine energy, and the only way to really heal that is to heal that. Like, somebody I listened to on YouTube, Till Swan, said healing is just doing the opposite. The thing that caused you pain, the thing that hurt you, you have to do the opposite of that. And that's how we heal. So that concludes this episode of Something Positive for Positive People, even though I opened with self. Please like, rate, review, share, subscribe to this podcast. If you made it this long, God bless you. I appreciate you so much. But this is a sneak peek into what the conversations are on my other podcast, Self. If you want to check that out, I'll catch y'all next time.